Welcome to Astrology for Mystics. I'm your host, Jennifer Jennings. Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about astrology events such as the Texas flooding event that took place in Kerr County, Texas. More than 80 people are confirmed deceased. 27 girls and staff members at Camp Mystic are among the deceased. I want to take a look at the astrology and what was taking place during the time period where the first emergency alert went out at 1:14 a.m. on July 4th, 2025. Astrologers take specific times and locations and they analyze and interpret the behavior, what has taken place, the different angles in which these planetary spheres of influence are influencing time and space and matter. In astrology, degrees in our charts literally matter in the state of matter. Some angles can be harmonious, some angles can be lots of challenges. Astrologers will have different interpretations based on their own observation. So this video is going to be based on my intuitive observation about what happened, what took place, how this event was affecting Texas and other agencies, how it affected them as well. The chart on the left is the Texas flooding event at 1:14 a.m. in Kerrville, Texas. The chart on the right is the state of Texas. Each state, each entity with a beginning date can be analyzed. And it is this analysis that I'm going to break down in this video as quickly as I can, as thorough as I can. Immediately, I can tell with this event chart, Pluto in Aquarius in the 11th house of groups is opposing Mercury in the 5th house of children in Leo. Mercury in Leo at an 828 is not only opposing Pluto, but it's also squaring Vesta, the flame of life in Scorpio in the 7th house of relationships and partnerships. Mercury was trining Astrea in Sagittarius in the 8th house at a 1013 in Sag. And Mercury was also trining Ceres at a 1249 in Aries. A lot of energy was going to the campground, to the media with children. Pluto in the 11th house of groups in Aquarius is at a 304 degree, 3 degrees and 4 minutes. It's the same degree that Texas has in their 8th house of death. Mars in Cancer is at a 3 degree and 4 minute in their 8th house. That was a major transformation that was taking place at home. Pluto is intensity, it's darkness, it's turbulent. And that is exactly what the waters were doing. They were turbulent. And we can understand the river rising during this Texas flooding event as Astrea at a 1013 in the 8th house of death was showing that there was a quick movement of energy. A higher learning can represent religion, churches. Astrea was opposing the health in the 3rd house of communications with Hygeia at 1356. Well, we can look at Texas chart and we can see that there is a 1356 in the 1st house of Sagittarius. And in the 7th house, the equatorial descendant is a 1356. There is this timing here. There was information that was coming in with the alert system to Texas, with their relationships. These communications held in opposition with Astrea, the divine justice, and the 8th house. And that opposition with Astrea is the first house of Texas, their life path. It's opposing relationships and partnerships. Saturn at a 152 during the flooding event was conjunct Neptune stationing, conjunct the North Node in Pisces at a 2144. All of that was taking place in the 12th house is about endings. It's about water. It's about flooding. It's about a health factor. Neptune was intense. Neptune is ruling that 12th house. And it would not be long, Saturday morning, when Saturn comes to that 153 degree with the state of Texas, Hades in Capricorn. I have FEMA to the left, the Texas flooding event to the right. And I want you to notice that the Federal Emergency Management Association has a 2542 Mars in Pisces in the 11th house of groups and how they bring in money. Mars at a 2542 in Pisces is the same exact degree as Eris, the goddess of war and strife, in the first house of the flooding event. And this is a collective transit. There is a lot of people involved with this warring. I think it's worth noting quickly that the FBI is highly connected to FEMA with terrorism and crisis, such as the flooding event. The United States Federal Bureau of Investigation rises and descends at a 2542. That's exactly where Eris is sitting on their descendant degree at a 2542, where the Mars is with FEMA. FEMA rises in Taurus at a 2556, and that is where FBI Vulcan is. There's a connection here with FEMA and the FBI, as it should be. But I want to take note as well that the North Node in Pisces at a 2144 and the South Node at a 2144 in Virgo in the 6th house, this axis of health is fated with the FBI, 2144 in the 4th house of communications with their Chiron. I think it's worth noting that they are pained with groups and it's fated. We can also notice that there is a relationship that is bringing them a conscious raising experience at a 651. These relationships with the Emergency Management Association is the same exact degree as the flooding events. Vesta in Scorpio in the 7th house of relationships and partnerships is at a 651. And we can also see that Mars in the event chart at a 939 degree in Virgo in the 6th house of health is exactly where FEMA has information that is coming in and going out with their equatorial ascendant and descendant in Taurus and Scorpio. It's about other people's money. It's about money, funding. The moon was in Libra. Libra is about justice. It's about relationships and partnerships. Venus rules Libra. And Venus rules this chart because Venus is in her home sign at a critical degree at a 2934 in the 2nd house, where she also rules that 2nd house. She's fated, absolutely fated with the moon. There is a quincunx aspect here. There is a fate with the past justice, with the past relationships, with the parks and camps. As tragic as it is, nothing in life happens by chance. Venus there in the 2nd house is in conversation, conjunct with Uranus. There's an abrupt shakeup with communications, with networking, with things of value, possessions. And Mercury during this flooding event is in the 5th house of kids. This is where the media Mercury is about the media, and it's about children. And Mercury was square to Vesta, the flame of life, at the 651 degree in Scorpio, in that seventh house of relationships and partnerships. I have the Texas flooding event on the left and Greg Abbott on the right, the governor of Texas. I can definitely tell you that this man is highly connected to the state of Texas and the flooding event with the information that was coming in at a 1356, with the health factor, the communications with Greg Abbott is showing wisdom with Poseidon at a 1356 in Libra. The moon was passing over this wisdom at a 13 degree. It was expanding with communications when the moon crossed over his Jupiter degree at a 2021. No matter what time he's born, that non-mover, 1356, is where he is receiving information and he is talking to the state officials, emergency responders at that time. The weight of home with his Hades at a 543 in Taurus has already been opposed by the physician Apollo days prior. And the physician Apollo at a 541 in Scorpio in that seventh house of relationships and partnerships during the flooding event was coming down in degree to his Cupid at a 540, desires for balance, for justice. And this is where we're at. This is where we're at. The balance and justice and how we can move forward in hindsight, because the future depends on it. Our future children depend on emergency systems that are working and in place and rescuing prior to a flooding event. I'm not sure what time he's born, but the sun in the fourth house of home is shining at a 1232, and that's exactly where his Chiron is a 1232 in Aquarius. Is about the future. It's about groups of people. It's about networking. The sun was opposing the governing agencies in Capricorn. Such a tragic event, such as this one, reminds us that the now moment is what truly matters. The only constant in this reality is change. Change is abrupt at times, comes without warning, and we are reminded that the now moment is the most precious gift. The present is now.